Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another town hall information meeting by Realcomp. We're so glad you could join us. I want to introduce first our staff that's with you tonight. We have Tammy Cummings, as usual. Tammy is our product and training manager, and Miss Francine Green. And you know Fran she's been with Realcomp for many, many years, so has Tammy. And Fran's in charge of all marketing, and she is the one who is responsible for putting these events on for all of you. And you know me, so I don't really need to say much there. Tonight we're going to learn about a new product that we're getting ready to roll out in just a couple of weeks called RentSpree. So before I introduce the presenter tonight, I just want to make sure that I remind you of a couple of things. One is, yes, we will be recording this, so you'll be able to go back and look at it and pick up any information you think you might have missed. Second, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A that you see at the bottom of your screen, and we will respond to all of those questions when we're done with the presentation. And if Stephen has to go back and reference any of the slides that we've gone through, I'm sure that won't be a problem. So let me introduce to you Stephen Pastores. Stephen is a customer service manager at RentSpree. He works with RentSpree's partners, which include brokerages, state associations, and MLSs across the United States. And he's based in Los Angeles, California. So please welcome Stephen, and he's going to walk you through what wonderful benefits RentSpree is going to bring to all of you. Stephen?
Thank you so much, Karen. And I hope everyone's having a great day and a nice evening so far. So the purpose of today's meeting is kind of give you some background on tenant screening. It's a topic that is really helpful to know, especially if you're an agent getting your feet wet into the business, but also if you're a veteran, because there's some tips and strategies that we're going to talk about today that are going to be really helpful in kind of streamlining your business. And RentSpree has been around for 5 years. We are founded by 2 alumni of Pepperdine Business School here in Los Angeles. And we've grown from a small startup to a company that works with brokerages and associations all across the US. We're super excited to work with Realcomp. As Karen was saying, we are rolling out within the next couple of weeks. But to get started, I want to go ahead and jump in and discuss tenant screening with you all tonight. So for today's agenda, we're going to talk about some key tenant screening points. We're going to dive into the different steps of the tenant screening process. We're going to go over some of the screening regulations. And then we're going to talk about how to screen tenants effectively. And then we'll take some questions at the end of the session today. So we're halfway through the year, as hard as that is to believe, and we've seen a lot of changes when it comes to the real estate industry. You know, obviously COVID-19 has impacted real estate transactions, and we've seen a lot of changing regulations in the industry. With COVID, we weren't able to meet renters in person anymore. Business became more and more technology focused, and there are some risks to that. The risks are that if you're working with applicants and they're submitting all their information to you electronically, you're not able to determine if their information is accurate. So you're going to have to rely on a couple of different factors that'll help you make the right decision. The goal of today is kind of to help you educate and understand how RentSpree can help you and how this technology can help you make your rental life a whole lot easier. Because the idea is obviously to focus on those bigger picture sales transactions that make up the majority of your income. Some of the current screening issues that we've seen as a company. So first, we've seen breaches when handling sensitive information. So if you're working with a renter and they're required to submit their SSN, driver's license, some other form of ID, often they will just submit it via email. And these days we've seen it's very easy to have an email be compromised and the information could be lost or stolen. So that's one thing to take into account. We've also seen a lot of applicant identity fraud. So if an individual doesn't meet the requirements to apply for a property, let's say they have a credit score below the minimum required, they can take their friend's credit profile and apply using their information. So it's important to make sure that you have a process in place that's really vetting your applicants as much as possible. And then finally, we are seeing a risk of discriminatory practices as far as tenant screening is concerned. So I'm going to give you a quick example. If you have a property open for screening and you have a single individual applying, you would charge them $30. But let's say you're offering an incentive for a married couple to apply and you would charge them $50. So you're pretty much giving them a $10 discount, which seems nice on the surface, but you have to remember that you have to treat every renter on an equal playing field. And a lot of landlords and agents aren't doing that. So it's important to make sure that you are in compliance with those regulations. Now, at RentSpree, we like to talk about a couple of different points as far as tenant screening goes. So first, we think about availability and accuracy of information. The first piece of info that you're going to get back from an applicant is their rental application. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with paper applications. You've used them extensively in the past. There are some risks with relying on a paper process. If an applicant misses sections and they submit everything back to you, if they miss a section, they're going to have to go back and complete the whole thing, sign it again, and it's a huge time waster. You also have to make sure that you're verifying all the information that the applicant provides on that application. So if you're going over pages and pages of documents, all that means more time spent. Laws and regulations, we also want to make sure we're understanding those. So we want to think about the Fair Housing Act and the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So making sure you're up to date on those regulations will help you minimize the risk of making an incorrect rental decision. The cost factor is something that we always like to emphasize with using RentSpree because it's a completely free service. So the way that it works is that the cost is passed down to the renter who pays a $30 application fee. And this will help minimize the cost of you spending money on subscription services for screening. And also, since our process is completely electronic, you don't have to worry about spending money on paper, ink cartridges, printers, and things like that. Best of all, the convenience factor. So thinking about the setup time that is involved in the screening process, collecting all those paper applications from your clients, scanning everything, reviewing it, sending it back. That also will affect the turnaround time. You know, especially now, the summer season is coming. Things are getting very, very competitive. If it takes too long to get a screening report back, that means a lost opportunity to get some leads and some tenants. So it's important to keep these things in mind as we get into the busy season. Now, at RentSpree, we like to break down the tenant screening process into a couple of different steps. So before you get started, it's important to set the screening criteria, market the property, and pre-screen applicants. Once you're actually into the process itself, that's when you would show the property, and we'll show you a couple different ways of how to handle a showing. And then you would start collecting those rental applications and getting those screening reports back for everyone who's applying. And then after the process is done, you would make sure that you're verifying applicant information, making a decision, and then onboarding the tenant and signing that lease. Now, a lot of agents don't realize that marketing a property is perhaps one of the most important steps because this is the only way that you're going to get leads, and those leads can translate into sales prospects down the road. So first rule of thumb is to think about the quality of the content that you're creating for the property. Doesn't matter if it's a sale or a rental, the principle is the same. The better quality content that you put out for the property, the better quality renter you will attract. So again, in this day and age with COVID, you know, some regulations are in place that tenants can't visit the property. You can still have a video showing, you can have a 3D model of the property. There's many different ways to make the renter feel that they're actually physically present without having to be there. Posting online, you know, a lot of folks with the pandemic were spending more and more time in front of their computers and smartphones. you want to start to think about the different channels that your clients are using on a day-to-day basis. A lot of agents are posting properties on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, the MLS as well. It's all dependent on what your clients are looking at. So make sure to get in front of as many channels as possible. And then making sure that when you're posting on these channels that you're sharing the screening criteria. So if a client is looking at a property on Facebook and they see that the minimum credit score required is a 750, and they don't meet that credit requirement, they'll automatically take themselves off your list, so you don't have to worry about vetting them. So it's important to make sure that all these things will help you save time. At the end of the day, that's RentSpree's goal, to help you save time in the rental process. And we're just giving you a couple of these steps to help you out along the way. Now, pre-screening tenants. This is a step that's often missed by a lot of agents in the industry. And one of the questions that an agent or landlord is going to ask the tenant is what you would like to know about the property. This is super important because every renter is going to be a potential sales prospect. So if you're not paying attention to what the renter is saying when they're doing a showing, you're going to miss out on those key details that are going to matter down the road. So the tenant is going to ask, is there a laundry in this unit? Are there any shared walls? Do I have multiple parking spaces? All those things are going to be logged into your CRM, so you can remember down the road their preferences when it comes time for them to actually buy their first home. You also want to make sure that you're reiterating the terms of the rental. So during COVID, we had a lot of landlords offering incentives for rental properties, 1 month free, couple of months free, depending on what the situation was. So make sure that both you and the applicant are on the same page regarding those. You also want to make sure that you're sharing the screening criteria. Again, can't emphasize this enough. You want to make sure that each applicant understands what the minimum requirements are to apply for that rental. But you don't want to kind of take over the conversation. So again, the idea is to have the renter tell you as much information about themselves as possible. All that information is going to go to your CRM, which is going to be super helpful down the road when it comes time to re-engage them for that first sales adventure. Now, property showings, obviously, this is one of the biggest things that was affected by COVID. So a couple rules to understand. Make sure that you check the current tenant lease agreement for rules on entry. You don't want to barge into the property when the tenants are staying there. You also do want to try to provide proper notice. So 24 hours is usually the standard. And focus on scheduling showings from Monday through Friday, and try not to schedule showings outside of normal business hours. Now, as far as strategies for showing there are a couple different pathways you can take, and individual showing is a really popular way, especially with COVID. They're kind of minimizing interaction. With this, you meet one tenant at a time, and you really have a lot of opportunities to kind of get to know them on a pretty much deep level. But the risk is that if a tenant cancels on you, you'd easily have lost 30 minutes to an hour of your time, not including commute times. So it's important to consider that if you're relying on that exclusively as your showing strategy. We also have the open house. This is becoming popular again now that COVID guidelines are being relaxed. The downside of an open house is that you won't be able to get that same level of knowing your clients versus if you were doing an individual showing. So kind of think about that before you do open houses exclusively. And that's a nice little segue into the last option, which is a block showing. So a block showing is you take 3 or 4 hours out of a day, and instead of meeting everybody at once, you would kind of have each renter schedule 10 to 15 minutes of time. And that way, if one renter cancels, you still have a couple of other prospects to work with. So the block showing really incorporates the best of both worlds. Great option if you have a lot of renters interested, but some of them obviously can't make it. You can still work with the others that do make it. Now, collecting a rental application. And I do want to mention that RentSpree's application is completely digital based. So you don't have to worry about chasing down applicants for any missing signatures or anything like that, because the RentSpree application will catch any missed sections and won't allow the applicant to submit if there's anything that's been left blank. As far as the application goes, These are a couple of things that are going to be included on that. So you have the personal information, the residential history, employment/income, any references, any pets, and any miscellaneous data, such as if they're a smoker, any bankruptcies and things like that. So this application, again, will be available for in a fully digital format, making it super convenient for you to access it whenever you want. And kind of tied to an application is obviously the screening report. And a screening report includes a couple of different things. Ideally, you're going to have a credit report, which will give you a really detailed overview of the applicant's financial background. You can also request a background check, an eviction history report, and identity verification report. And RentSpree does include an applicant identity verification as part of the process. And the way that works is that for every renter who's applying, they provide their SSN to RentSpree. So they're basically asked a couple of challenge questions to help verify their identity. And this way you're kind of resting assured that the applicant who's applying really is in fact that person whose information you're looking at. So that's one of the great benefits of using our service as well. Now, as far as verifying applicant information, the first step would obviously be verifying identity, and RentSpree does do that by collecting the SSN from each applicant who applies. Residential history, the application does ask for applicants to provide both current and previous landlord information. A quick little tip is that it is important to reach out to both the current and the previous landlord, because if the applicant is a bad tenant, their current landlord may have a vested interest in just getting them out of the way as soon as possible. So that's why it's important to also go back a little bit further and talk to those previous landlords as well. Employment, we've seen a rise in remote work and self-employment during the pandemic. So if you don't have access to pay stubs and the applicant works for themselves, it's important to get those extra documents like tax returns and bank statements and things like that that'll help verify that extra income. And then references. Obviously, references are super important, and these are friends and family members that can kind of help complete the picture for you besides the landlords and their employers. And RentSpree does have a tool called the RentSpree Pro, which automatically verifies references for applicants. So that's a really great feature that's included with your RentSpree account, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And then the time would come then to issue a decision, and RentSpree does help with this as well. You can choose to accept or deny applicants depending on what their screening reports results are. So obviously the first option would be to accept. So applicant meets all the requirements. The next would be to accept on condition. So if the applicant has some deficiencies in their credit, but they pretty much have a really great background overall, they have a clean background check, clean eviction, you can choose to go ahead with them and then just have them have a cosigner or a guarantor or pay a security deposit as well. And then finally, obviously, you have the rejection option if the applicant doesn't meet any of the requirements. And the obviously final step would be to have the applicants sign the lease. And we talked about that the RentSpree application is in a digital format. We just added a new feature a couple of months ago, which is called e-sign documents. So if you're working with PDF copies of a lease, you can upload those to RentSpree and add fields and forms to them, very similar to how DocuSign works, and then have the applicant complete it with their computer or smartphone. And one thing to know about the lease is that ideally you'd want each occupant or roommate to fill out their own version of the lease agreement just to cover in the case of any liability. Now, screening regulations, one last thing before I want to cover before we go back, talk about RentSpree a little bit more. So background checks, you want to understand how and when you can use these in your screening process. We're going to go over some of the protected classes, and then we're going to discuss the FCRA as well. Now, background checks. So some quick things to know about these background checks. So first, you want to make sure that you're using the background checks for an approved reason. You do want to ask or provide authorization from the applicants that they consent to give you that background check. RentSpree does ask applicants to give their authorization. Make sure that you're avoiding automatic denials for any criminal records in the applicant's past. If you do have questions, make sure to counsel with a real estate landlord, tenant, or attorney. And then finally, make sure that you're disposing of all the reports properly once done. And one point that I want to mention as far as disposal goes, so the RentSpree report for screening is available instantaneously, but it'll be live on the RentSpree site for 30 days. So 30 days from once it's first generated up to when it expires. Now, quick little discussion. So if you don't already know, these are the federal protected classes. So race, color, sexual orientation or identity, religion, family status, physical disability, mental disability, and national origin. So make sure to be very careful with not including any targeted language toward these groups. And then some of the examples in which you could fall into some traps are refusing to rent to somebody, excluding certain groups from advertisements, putting out marketing that indicates a certain preference toward a certain group, discouraging someone from applying, orienting certain folks to particular units, using different terms and conditions, lying about availability, and using a different screening process. So we talked about that a little bit earlier. For example, if you're charging a married couple less money than a single applicant. So with all that being said, I want to kind of segue now and discuss a little about the partnership that we've launched with Realcomp. So some of the benefits to agents that RentSpree offers is obviously the time factor. So I mentioned briefly earlier that all of our screening reports are generated instantaneously. This is going to save you so much time, especially with the busy summer rental season coming up. Having a report that's available for you right away is going to save both you time and the applicant time. We also follow up with applicants if they don't respond to the first request for screening. You know, a lot of agents spend so much unnecessary time following up with applicants to get all their documents together. RentSpree will take care of that for you. If they don't reply to the first screening request, we will automatically send reminders to them the first 3 days after the first request has been sent. All that data is provided by our integration partner, TransUnion, so you're able to get access to 300 million plus records on every applicant. And we help you to reduce your liability. So that means you don't have to collect any cash or payment from the applicants. You don't have to worry about collecting their SSN or driver's license. All that information is provided by the applicant to RentSpree directly. And then again, so you don't have to. So it's a really great time saver. A lot of time is spent on collecting documents, making sure everything is accurate. So having a program take care of that for you is going to make a huge difference. So let's talk a little bit about what's included with your RentSpree account. So the first point that I want to mention is that you're going to have access to that online rental application. So we talked about some of the benefits of having an online application. One of those is, again, we make sure that each application you get back is completely filled out. It's been signed electronically. Nothing is missing. It's available on both desktop and mobile devices. And what this means is that if you have an applicant go to a showing and they are interested in applying, you can actually have them just take out their smartphone, scan a QR code, and they can complete the whole process from their phone. They don't have to go home, start collecting documents. As long as they have a smartphone and an internet connection, they can just do the whole screening process with their phone. And besides that application, we also provide you with a TransUnion credit report. The number one question that I get in webinars is, Steven, is this credit report a soft pull or a hard pull? And the answer is that it is a soft pull. And that means it does not affect the applicant's credit score. Great news for applicants. If they're applying to multiple properties, they don't have to worry about their credit score being dinged by a couple points. And even better, you still have access to all that financial information, such as trade lines, collections, previous addresses, and things like that. We also include a criminal background check if you want that as well. And it covers 44 states, including Michigan. And it includes a most wanted database search and a sex offender registry search as well. And then finally, an eviction history report. And this is super important, with the COVID crisis, we were seeing a lot of evictions happening, and just having that information available to you is going to give you a lot of peace of mind. And that does cover all 50 states, including Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. Now, these 4 items that I just mentioned here in the top row, those are included for the $30 fee that the applicant does pay to RentSpree. But let's say you're a broker, right? And you want to kind of make some profit off of your screening business. What you can do is that you can charge the applicant $40 or $45, and you can collect that as a cash check however you want to, and you would just pay RentSpree $30 to access the report itself. So there is that opportunity available to you if you're a broker and you're trying to make that extra revenue. Some other key features that we include with the accounts are you can share the reports. This is a benefit that really helps the applicant. Normally an applicant, when they're applying for a rental, they're going to be applying to other rentals as well. So if you're able to share that report with another landlord or agent, it'll save them $30, and it'll also save them the time of having to apply all over again when they can use the same report. And one thing that I do want to mention is that our screening reports don't have a property address tied to them. Super important, because we really intended for them to be used for a general purpose so they can apply to multiple homes. So by not having the property address tied to a report, it really does benefit the applicant. Another great feature is our accept deny letters. A lot of agents and landlords spend a lot of time writing out these emails and explaining why an applicant was denied or why they're accepted. RentSpree will take care of that for you. And then finally, we have our e-signatures feature that I talked about a couple of minutes ago. And if you're working with electronic copies of documents, this really will help you save a lot of time as well, since you can upload those PDF files to RentSpree and add those fields to them. And then you can even track who has signed the document, who hasn't signed it. Just makes everything a whole lot easier for you. So these are all things that are going to be included with your RentSpree account from day one. We have our full integration launch coming up in a couple of weeks, but we have seen a couple of agents already start the screening process, and we'll talk about that in just a couple minutes. So before we segue over to the questions, I just want to mention here the website that we've created specifically for Realcomp. So while we get the full integration up and running, you can definitely start setting up your account as of today. So what you're going to do is that you're going to go to rentspree.com/Realcomp, as you see here on the screen. This website is going to be where you're going to go to create your account for the first time. And all you need here is an email address and password. There's no other thing that's required of you. The setup process takes about 2 minutes. So all you have to do is add in, obviously, your email and password, set up your property, and then you can start screening tenants right away. So it's a super exciting time. We have a lot of new features coming up in the pipeline for you, and we really hope this is going to be a really great difference maker for your rental business. It's going to lead to a lot of sales prospects down the road as well. And then that is it for the content of my presentation today. We can segue over to questions.
Well, right now we have a question. While everybody's thinking about other questions, can you print the application information in the 30-day time frame?
Great question. So yes, so you can do a couple things with the screening report once it's ready. So one of those things is you can print the report, so you can have it as a hard copy. A lot of agents do that, and they just store it in their office. The second thing you can do is that you can save that as a PDF. That's by far one of the most popular options that agents choose to do. So what you're going to do is that there's a button on the dashboard. Once the report is ready, you can just save it as a PDF, and that'll be automatically put on your computer. You can add it as an attachment to an email, or send it across or save it on your computer for future use, things like that. So those are a couple of things that you can do, printing and saving it as a PDF file.
Carla wants to know if they can use their own application or do they have to use yours?
You can use your own application. Yeah, for sure. So the way that would work is that once you're choosing the different components of the screening, you can just deselect the application part, and you would just have the applicant submit the credit, background check, and eviction. So you don't have to use RentSpree's application if you want to use your own.
Oh, that was a good question.
Great question.
And hi, Ginger. I hope it worked better for you tonight, my friend. No charge to Realcomp subscribers, just the applicant pays fee. And that is accurate, Ginger. There is no fee for any of our subscribers. We're making that available to you through RentSpree, and then your applicants will be the ones to pay that fee.
Correct.
What is the turnaround time to receive the information?
Turnaround time, great question. And that is instant. So you get the reports back right away. So applicant hits submit, and again, they won't be able to click submit unless everything is filled out. Once they hit submit, you're going to get an email. The applicant will also receive an email with a copy of the report, and you'll be able to start using it right away.
So Carla, who asked about the use of her own application, wants to be able to use her application online, and she can do that, but she just couldn't combine it with the information through RentSpree. Is that correct? She'd have to go get that document and send it out to her applicant herself.
You could do that, Carla, or the other option is you could take advantage of the e-sign docs feature. So if you have your own application as a PDF file, you can upload that to RentSpree, and then you can send it through that way. And that way you can even track who has signed it or who hasn't signed it as well.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Okay, come on. No more questions? Nobody has any more questions?
So Karen,
Yes.
Dana Smedley raised her hand.
Okay. What was her, I didn't see her question, Fran.
Yeah, so she didn't submit it.
Okay.
So Dana, if you can submit your question through the Q&A function.
Thank you, Fran. Carla also wants to know, when can we start doing this?
Well, with this URL that I have on the screen, you can definitely start right after we wrap up this meeting if you want to sign up with rentspree.com/realcomp. And you know what? We're going to do a little surprise for you guys. So if one of you signs up for your RentSpree account tonight, we are going to pick one of you to get a $50 Amazon gift card.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
There they go. They're all gone.
This was a
and
surprise. Okay. This was not planned.
While they're doing that, Stephen, I want to explain a little bit to everyone about what the integration is going to look like with Realcomp. We're trying to make it easier for everyone. If you have a property that's for lease, and certainly, Stephen, you need to jump in here, but they're going to have the opportunity to say, yes, I want to use RentSpree when they enter that listing. And then a URL will be created that the listing agent will be able to use to send out to agents or prospective renters, leaseors, and they'll be able to fill it out right there through clicking on that URL. Did I explain that correctly?
That's completely accurate, Karen. Yes.
Okay.
And so that link is called an apply link. And we talked about it a little bit before, but basically having that apply link automatically generated saves you guys more time. And all the applicant has to do is just click on that link, and they'll be able to get the whole screening process started.
And that's what we're working on over the next couple of weeks. I'm sure you all know we've been a little busy with something else we were working on, which we're not going to talk about tonight because it's not the night for that. But once we get that up and running, it's going to make it even easier for you to use this great program. Michael wants to know, hi Michael, is the applicant contact information held in the RentSpree system for future marketing opportunities?
Great question, Michael. So just remember that our screening reports are going to be live on the RentSpree dashboard for 30 days. So you have those 30 days to kind of make sure that you have all their contact info logged into your CRM, because we do try not to keep those reports for longer than that.
So look at Bill. Bill Andrews is coming through like he has a
Hey,
question
Bill.
here. We're going to get to him in a minute. And Ginger said, great program. And yes, it worked great tonight. Oh, I'm so happy, Ginger. I'm happy. Sylvie says, this sounds fabulous. Dana says she didn't have a question. She accidentally clicked it on her phone, Fran. Let's see what Bill says. How long does it take to sign up?
That's a great question, Bill. And guys, it takes less than 2 minutes. Okay. There's no excuse to not get that Amazon gift card. So rentspree.com/realcomp. All you need is email address and password. Couldn't get any easier. And there you have it. Super simple. Tenant screening made easy.
Okay, so the next question, I don't think we talked about this. You say the turnaround is instant. Are you saying you will return all the security checks instantly? You're not collecting security deposits. You're just providing the application.
Right.
Is that correct?
Right. So what's getting delivered back instantly is the credit report, background check, and eviction. We don't have currently a way of collecting any monetary fees from applicants yet.
Right. So that's not part of what this does for you.
Right.
Ginger says, so if we don't have a renter or property right now, how can we view the application to see if we want to use yours or ours?
So, we could do a couple things. So if you don't have a property available yet and you just want to test out RentSpree, you can create a sample property. I can also share with you a sample of what our application and our screening reports look like, so you can take a look at those on your own time. So whatever you prefer, we can work with you on that.
And Stephen, if you want to send those to us, we can make them available if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
We can do that.
Absolutely.
Now, okay, so the next question asks about RentSpree Pro. Is there a RentSpree Pro?
There is, yes. So RentSpree Pro.
Somebody must have already went and looked.
I love the initiative. So RentSpree Pro includes a couple things. So first thing is document uploads. And what that means is that if you need to get those extra documents from applicants like tax returns and bank statements, you can have them upload all that through RentSpree Pro. Makes it super secure, and that way the applicants don't need to send emails with those extra docs. And then the best feature that in my opinion, is the automated reference checks. So RentSpree Pro has that feature where if the applicant provides employer and landlord information, RentSpree will reach out to those individuals to verify that the information that the applicant was writing down on their application is correct. So think about how much time you're saving by not having to call those references when RentSpree can just do it for you.
And so what is the fee for RentSpree Pro, Stephen?
And the fee is $9.99 a month, but it is available for a free trial, for a free month trial. So if you guys want to test it out, there's no commitment for that first month. See how it works, get acquainted with it. And then if you want to continue, it'll be that $9.99 a month, but you can definitely cancel that at any time you want.
And I totally misunderstood the question about the security deposits. She was talking about security checks as in checking on the tenants. So you answered it correctly. I misunderstood her question completely. Can I use RentSpree as a buyer's agent to send my client's application to the listing agent? Okay, I'm the buyer agent. Well, interesting. Does the listing agent have to initiate that in order for the buyer agent to use it, Stephen?
Well, so we only work with rentals and not sales, but I guess if you're trying to get a credit report for a prospective buyer, you could, since the screening report doesn't need to be tied to any particular address.
I think what she's asking, or they're asking, is if I am representing the buyer and the buyer or the lessor, and they filled out that application, can I send that application to the listing agent? But doesn't that first have to be generated from the listing agent, the URL, in order for that to work?
Yes.
That way?
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a renter can't just apply to, they can't just go to rentspree.com and start applying. They have to be given an application link by their agent or by their landlord to apply. That's how the workflow is set up.
But if I'm representing somebody who wants to lease the property, can I can't create a link to that property for them, but can I have them fill out the application online and then send it to the agent that has it listed?
Yes.
Yes, even if that listing agent didn't create the URL initially.
Right.
Okay. I think I probably made that way more confusing than it needed to be. Sorry. Carla, how can it be instant if they have to verify these things? How can it be so quick?
Well, that's the beauty of TransUnion and the integration. I can definitely get more information for you on that. You know, why the turnaround time is as quick as it is. But yeah, it's, you know, TransUnion has those records available in the cloud, so they're able to be accessed with a click of a button.
And hopefully at some point, Stephen will be able to actually show what it looks like. You know, I've had the benefit of seeing it a couple of times and walking through the actual process, and it's very easy. It's very easy to use.
Well, I think, it's 6:47 or 7:47. If we have time, I can go through the setup process for everybody.
Why don't you do that? We don't have any more questions right now, so why don't you go ahead and do that?
Excellent. So let me pause my sharing for a second, and then
I'm going to answer Vanita, who says, are we billed monthly for usage? And you won't be billed anything, Vanita, unless you choose to upgrade to the Pro. But if you're using what Realcomp provides for you, you won't be billed anything. It's part of your subscription fees. Okay.
So this is the URL that I was talking about a little bit earlier. So again, you're going to see that it's rentspree.com/Realcomp. It's going to have a logo here and the branding. So if I'm creating my account for the first time, I'm going to have to either click on Get Started or Start Screening. And you guys can see the screen okay, right?
Yes.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and click on Start Screening. And again, the only thing that we need to provide is an email address and password. So let's go ahead and type that in. And then once we check off the box, we can just click sign up with email. And then we can choose how we're using RentSpree. So we'll just go ahead and choose agent, click continue. And then that's going to take us directly to the dashboard. So that took me less than 20 seconds. So the next step would be to add my first listing. And if we're adding a listing for the first time, the first thing that we need to do is enter a mailing address. And a lot of agents just put their brokerage office address in these sections here. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then once we hit save and next, it's going to ask us to provide the property address that's being rented out. So we'll go ahead and type in an address here, and then we can choose if we're working on behalf of the landlord or the applicant.
Stephen,
So
if when this gets integrated with the MLS, will this pre-fill from the listing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they won't
in the
have
meantime,
to enter this.
yeah, correct. In the meantime, this is what you can do while we get the integration fully set up.
Got it.
So we'll choose applicant for now, and then the property will be added as an active listing. So if you want to screen tenants, you can click on this blue button. And then once we accept the TransUnion service agreement, and then click continue, we can choose who we pay the screening fee. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, but if you guys do want to collect some profit off those screening fees, you would just choose to pay for the screening fee and then just collect that extra revenue from the applicant directly. And the rental application is free. So if you want to first get that before getting into the weeds of their credit and background check, you can certainly do so. But again, most agents, their first go around, choose all 4 of these. And then once we hit next and then confirm and continue, it's going to take us to the options to screen. So RentSpree gives you a couple different options for notifying your renters. So the first is request reports via email or mobile. And all you have to do is type in the applicant emails into these gray boxes and then just hit send request. And then the applicant will get that email notification to apply. It takes them 5 to 10 minutes to complete the application on their end. And again, you get it back right away. And then the apply link, and this is going to be one of the great benefits of the integration, is that the apply link will be generated automatically for you. And the applicants can just click on this link to apply. And then if you are meeting them in person, you can have them scan this QR code on this flyer. And again, I talked about this. This will help them, apply on the spot. All they need is their smartphone, and they'll be able to get that back to you in a couple minutes. So these are the couple different ways in which the applicant can get that notification to actually start screening. And once we click go to listing, what's great about RentSpree is that it gives you a status update. So we can see that this renter has been sent that initial email, but they haven't actually started it. Once they do start and complete everything, you can see their monthly income, if they have an application back, and the reports are ready as well. So yeah, setup time, you guys saw me do it. It was less than 2 minutes, super straightforward and simple. And then once the integration is up, adding that property is going to be an automatic thing because it'll be done through the MLS. So that's it in a nutshell. The dashboard is, again, super easy and simple to navigate. And then this little rocket ship here is RentSpree Pro, which we talked about a little bit earlier. So these are the 2 features that you're going to get. So those automatic reference checks and the document uploads as well. Any questions on that? I see we've got a couple more questions come in.
We do. Tanisha said you do have to complete your profile information. It's not automatically integrated. I'm not sure if the profile information will be integrated from the MLS. Will it, Stephen? From the agent information, they'll have to fill that in themselves, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, I believe so too. I saw the integration as far as the listing. If it's a roommate situation, will the applications be linked together? Wondering if there are 5 to 6 groups applying, will we have 5 to 6 results, or could there be 10 plus results?
So if it's a roommate situation, obviously like each adult over the age of 18 would provide their own application and screening reports. So there isn't a way for us to know if those individuals are all applying as a group, but that is something that we are definitely working on. So stay tuned for that, for you to understand if there's a collective group of folks applying together. But for now, it'll just be listed individually.
Okay.
Yep.
Carla wants to know, can we post that box they need? I'm assuming she means like the QR code.
Yes.
We post that box that they need at the rental door. Anyone coming by could apply without even seeing the interior.
Well, that's a great strategy. To just go up to a door and scan a code.
It really is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I believe,
so
yes.
They could do that, and then somebody could scan that code, and then they'd have access to the rental application, and they could go online and then fill everything out and send it back. That is pretty interesting.
Yep.
It also generates a link that they can post another advertisement like Facebook.
Exactly. All the younger kids these days are using Facebook. So for them to have a link on Facebook to apply, it's going to be easy peasy for them.
Yeah. Cynthia, if the applicant is paying the $30, who's collecting the fee, and should it be done before the applicant applies? Well, RentSpree is collecting the fee.
Yes.
And that will be collected before the reports are generated and sent back. If there's any issue with that, then I'm assuming the listing agent would be notified that
Yes.
something didn't work. And so, if everything goes smoothly, then the applicant's paying the fee, RentSpree's collecting it and getting all the reports and then sending them back to the agent.
Absolutely.
It
And,
sounds too easy.
Yep. And sometimes, Karen, things don't always go 100% correct. There are some applicants who experience issues with the reports, but we have an amazing customer support team. So I think if I can paste the link to our customer service team in the Q&A box, I don't think I can. But it's just support, SUPPORT @rentspree.com. So if anyone has any issues with screening reports, they can feel free to absolutely contact our support team.
This is interesting. For a married couple, do they each pay the $30 application fee?
Yes. Great question. Yes. We always get this question. Yes, it would be each individual adult.
Okay.
Yep.
That is a good question, though.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, does the applicant get a copy of their report?
Yes. Excellent question. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And they get a copy immediately after they click submit, so they can have it for their own personal records.
So does that mean they wouldn't have to apply again? They could just use that?
Yes. So we do have a second screening free program designed to benefit the applicant. So if they apply for a property and they pay the $30, but for whatever reason they're not accepted, if they apply to another property within 30 days, we will refund them that second screening fee.
Oh.
And obviously, the agent can also save the report as a PDF and kind of use that same report to apply to other properties as well.
Okay. Good questions. Okay. Other questions? Anybody have other questions before we send you off to finish your evening? Fran.
As of the 22nd, too, it'll be on the dashboard.
Yep.
For a single sign-in.
Excellent. That's going to be so nice to be able to just generate that link and send it out, and it's really going to make it easy to use this, which is one of the reasons why we chose it, because of that very reason. It's going to make it very nice and very easy. Oh, you got in just in the nick of time. Let's see. Did you say it was 30 days for the second application?
Yes. So second screening free is for 30 days after the applicant applies for their first property and they apply for a second one. Within 30 days, we will refund them that second screening fee that was paid.
Okay.
Yep.
How does the tenant agent get the report if the tenant doesn't give it to him? Is it available? Agent.
So the landlord, so let's say like the client is applying to a property with an apply link that was generated by the landlord could share that screening report or save it as a PDF and email it to the agent. So that's one way that could be done.
I think I know the answer to this one. If the applicant is not accepted, do they get their $30 back? Nope. They do not get their $30 back if they're not accepted, do they?
Well, let's say in one case, in one exception would be, they apply for a property and the property has already been rented out and the applicant in good faith didn't know that. If they reach out to our support team, we will refund them the money in good faith. Because obviously, they applied, but the property was off the market. So there's nothing that can be done there.
So it's not a matter of if they don't get accepted. It's a matter of if the property is gone by the time they get that back. Okay.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Questions? I think I got them all. Well,
amazing questions.
know, they were good questions, weren't they? We didn't have a great big group tonight, but they sure did ask good questions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much, Stephen. We look forward to our partnership with RentSpree, and we look forward to bringing our subscribers in and letting them experience what you have to offer. And we will have this video up and available to you next week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. So you can go on to our YouTube channel and see it there. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, somebody just popped one up too. Is it Michael? Let's see. Oh, you're welcome, Sylvie. You're welcome, everyone. I like those. I like those. Greetings. You're welcome. In the meantime, if you have questions, you know, feel free to reach out to us. But I think you're going to see that it's going to be very easy to use. And I'm sure that Stephen will let us know who gets the $50 Amazon card when they look to see who registered. So we will be reaching out to all of you. Your chances are pretty good too. So go register, and we'll let you know who's the winner of the $50 Amazon card.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
You.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks,
Have
everyone.
a great night.
Have a great night.
Bye, Stephen.
Bye. Thank you so much again.